Hello, people. How are you? I hope you can hear me properly. Uh, so, I'm tinkering with a few things here because today is going to be a fantastic one. Yeah. So, welcome to Sports with Jesse. It's a late night edition, and I thought that more sports needs to do justice to the issue of the greatest transfer saga of 2025. Every year, once the season opens, across the top five leagues in the world, we do get all of these transfer sagas. And um, we have a few this season, right? But the most, lofty one or the most pronounced one is the saga between Alexander Isak and Newcastle Football Club. So, if you don't know Alexander Isak, is an Eritrean-born footballer, but he's Swedish. His parents moved from Eritrea during the war, and they were granted asylum in Sweden, and he was born in Sweden. And he's gone through a lot. Football was his life in a new place, in a new environment, in a new culture. So he took to football, and in no time he became very good at it, and he was in all of those clubs in the local clubs in Sweden, and his star was going to shine really, really high. And he got this big move, to Borussia Dortmund, where everybody expected great things of him. Please, as we go together, it's going to be a long one. Please keep the comment coming. If you don't hear me very well, let me know. I can pick that up. If there's anything you want to let me know, I can pick it up from the studio. So please keep it coming. I want this to be an interactive session. Thank you so much. We always appreciate you for tuning in and joining more sports, presentations. So, like as I was saying, when Alexander Isak got to Borussia Dortmund, everybody expected great things, of him. But unfortunately, for many reasons, right, he could not he could not achieve his goal. Number one, the coach did not take to kindly to his type of football. Two, there are people that are standing in his way, established players who are doing the business, right? And he was a gangly um 19-year-old 18-year-old boy, who just came into the fold and was going to turn things. I think it was 19, yeah. So he lost his love for football, as you could expect. In Sweden, he was worshipped because he knew he was a star. But when you get to big clubs, you have to prove yourself. You have to do it. And this happens oftentimes to young footballers who have been given superstar status where they're coming from. So we remember at the, Mohamed Salah, we shared it on our pages. Mohamed Salah became the first man to be crowned the Players Football Forum winner three times. Is the first man ever to get that record win. Three times he's been the winner. And when he was talking, he said, "Remember, guys, I came to the EPL via Chelsea, and I could not cut it in Chelsea, and I left because I thought this league was not for me." And he went off to Italy, and he did very well. He did very well in Italy, and he said Liverpool came for me, and I thought, let me give it one more chance. And look at what is arguably one of the best players to have ever graced the English Premier League. So it was the same thing with Isak. He was coming into Germany with Borussia Dortmund, thinking that he was going to, sweep everything in his sight and go and achieve, great things. But that was not meant to be. So He lost his confidence. He actually said himself that he was depressed, for a while. So these are the things that we do not see. As fans, we just want people to keep performing. We want performance. We want their performance to help our own need, for gratification. But we need to understand that these are human beings as well. So he fell into depression and all of that. And when the season came, to an end, he said, I want to move to Spain. And he moved to Spain with Bilbao, if I'm right. And when he got to Spain, he lit up Spain. He lit it up practically. And he rediscovered that joy of football that he had in Sweden. And he did the business. So it was not too long ago that Newcastle, perennial underachievers, got, a shot up the arm with the investment from the Saudi, or the Saudi, sheikhs, the billionaires, and they wanted to get some high profile player. It's always very difficult for struggling teams to want to go, to the top echelons, of the football royalty all at once. You don't do that. You build gradually. So what they could secure at that point in time was one of the youngest, superstars in Europe, and that was Alexander Isak. When he came into England, to English, football league in the first season, he did not. Yeah, he had some injuries, but he still returned around double digits, of goals, and we could see, that there is a world class talent in this boy. Now, fast forward to the second season, he was tearing it up. Everybody could see that this dude is going to be one of the best in the world. And in that season, if his goals fired Newcastle into the top four place, for the Champions League. For a long time in their history, 30 years or so, they actually, were able to play in the Champions League. And the last season, he actually demonstrated to us that he is the oldest property in the striking department in European football, if not world football. So that was what Alexander Isak. And as you know, for the first time in 30 years, he was able to win a silverware, the FA Cup, for Newcastle. And that was where the drama started. So from this point on, let's delve into the charade that has become gentleman's agreement, contracts, and transfers in the world of football. So we need to delve deeper into it. So I'm going to be sharing lots of screen so that we can understand how this has come about and where we're going with this. So we will cover quite a lot of things. So this is not the first time that someone has actually, tried to force their way out of, a club due to one reason or another. And there are several reasons why players fall out of love with their club and wants to go somewhere else. Number one, we must understand that the average player, especially a striker, see, a goalkeeper and a defender, they might not be the best in the world and they can play for an unusually longer period of time. So if you look at Peter Shilton was playing as a goalkeeper in the World Cup at 40 years of age, and he still played about 2 years after that. So keepers have unusually, longer shelf life. And when you look at defenders, you don't need to be a great defender. You just need to be good and consistent, and you can play for a long time. But strikers, due to their movements, they have to do a whole lot of movements. They have to sprint, they have to do all sort of things. So the time that they've got at the top, max, is 8 years. Yeah, from the time they come of age into striking positions to when they get to the point that, we think, the curve is going down. The productivity curve is going down. You're no longer going to be our, top nine. Is 8 years maximum. So this is a situation in which some of these guys find themselves. That is why, like I said before, when players come to that magical age of 25 to 26 years, the next contract that they sign is going to be their highest paying payday. That's it. If you don't get all of the stuff that the sport ought to give you at that point in time, then you do not get anything. So let us put aside that we are fans, we want to enjoy the game, we want to be entertained, we want to gratify ourselves. Let's pack all of that to one side for a minute and talk about the life of an individual that has to provide for their families, that have to provide for themselves, and they have to provide for their future. So when they get to this age, the magical age of 25, 26, you're going to sign the next contract for 3 years or 2 years or whatever it is. It takes you to that place where, if you're 29, 30, if you're exceptionally brilliant, okay, they might say, okay, let's take a punt on you, give you 2 more years of contract on reduced wages. That, if you remember, when Salah was going to sign his last contract, he was 29. And Liverpool, despite Salah, last season, Salah stepped into the frame and actually, scored his way to the Premiership for Liverpool. That was it. Without Salah in that team, Liverpool aren't winning nothing. So that was the situation, that's the situation with strikers. It took a while for that contract to be finalized with Salah, just because it came to that age bracket where the club is saying, can he perform at the top level, from 30, if he's 30 years old, how good is going to be. Remember, we're human beings. You have a peak period. And after you get to your peak, you can only come down. That's the way it's been structured by nature. So, coming back to Isak. Now, Isak said, everybody's been, Newcastle, let me just put it out there. Newcastle have been a mid-table club for so long that they do not understand how to be a big club. That some Saudi money men, bring money into your club, change the structures and, start to behave like a big club does not necessarily make you a big, club. So they've been putting out words and statements via their chosen journalists and all of, and bloggers and influencers. And they've been maligning, the character of Alexander Isak. Oh, he doesn't want to train. Oh, it looks really bad on the team. Oh, he's a greedy bastard. Oh, he's under contract. He's under contract. They keep saying all of these things. So, and some of us who have been in this game for a while, we're not just coming into sports. We've been in sports all our lives. At most sports, you have experienced men, experienced women, behind more sports. We didn't just dabble into sports. We are all sport lovers and we are sports historians and we're very knowledgeable about sports. So this is not the first time. So like I said, before I take you into, let's look at what has happened, the hypocrisy of Newcastle and, the position of Alexander Isak and the position of Liverpool. Now, let us look at what actually transpired. What did Isak say? Don't forget, I've personally gone onto the profile of over 5 different journalists that are linked to Newcastle. And they've all been talking down Alexander Isak. They've all been talking him down. They've been maligning his character. They've been saying he doesn't want to train, is an ingrate, is this, is that. I mean, this is the best player that came your way in the last 30 years. Your best player that fired you, not even Alan Shearer, who has been chatting nonsense about Alexander Isak, could fire Newcastle to a cup, any type of cup. Even a paper cup, he couldn't. Alan Shearer, yeah, British guy, white, he could not help. He was even given the reign, to coach Newcastle. He ended up in relegation. But he's been talking nonsense about Alexander Isak. So it is not just them talking, it is the club working together with them to paint Alexander Isak in a negative light, so that everyone could say, oh, it's not about Newcastle and this and that. But as you've seen my conclusion, they're not doing themselves any favors, because one, they are not a big club. Two, they are not telling the full story. Three, they are not going to be able to attract superstar players any longer. I don't care how much money they've got in the pocket. They're not going to be able to attract players, because you do not treat your best players this way, openly, throwing them under the bus, and you think, oh, a new star is going to be rising that is not coming from the academy, that is already established, and going to look at Newcastle and look at Manchester United, look at Chelsea Football Club, look at Arsenal Football Club, and say, oh, I'm going to head off to Newcastle. It's not going to happen. And we're already seeing it. I'm going to show you a list of strikers that Newcastle have gone after. And they've said, no, I'm not coming. So that is Isak, like I told you last week, could leave Newcastle today penniless. And the best clubs in the world are going to be running after his signature. That's the way he is. He's good. He's paid his dues, and he's shown us. So let us see, when they were saying all of these things, let us see what Alexander Isak actually said, on his handle. So, like I said, keep the comments coming. Join the debate. Tell me, I want to know what you think. So I'm presenting my own opinion of what has gone on, and not just opinion. I'm going to give you facts and figures, to back up what I'm actually saying. So if you feel one way or another, please put a comment in there. Let me know, and I can respond to it. Thank you. So this is the message from Alexander Isak's Instagram page yesterday. And he said, I'm proud to be recognized by my... Okay, he was supposed to be at the PFA. I think the only player from Newcastle that made the team of the year. And he could not come. And he put out this message instead. So the PFA Awards. So PFA means Professional Football Association. So this is where players themselves vote for who they think is the best in the game. And Salah emerged 3 times. His fellow professionals have said, you are the best in the game. So when I conclude, we will come to the question as to why Salah has always been overlooked for the Ballon d'Or. Why is that? But we'll come to that later on. So this is what he said. I am proud to be recognized by my fellow professionals with a place in the PFA Premier League team of the season for 24-25. First and foremost, I want to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle United who has supported me along the way. So this is him acknowledging his teammates and acknowledging the fans at Newcastle. So he doesn't have problem with the fans. He doesn't have problems with his teammates. So going further, he said, I am not at the ceremony tonight. With everything going on, it didn't feel right to be there. I have kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. And as I told you, Newcastle lined up a lot of friendly journalists to keep chatting nonsense about Alexander Isak, their best player. So you can imagine what's going on. He said, I have kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only imagined is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone, not just myself. Now, what a damning statement to Newcastle. So this guy has come out, acknowledged his teammates. I don't have problems with you guys. He's acknowledged the fans who took him into their hearts, and he also repaid them by giving them the experiences that they never thought they were going to get. This is the same guy who fired Newcastle into Champions League places in two successive seasons. This is the guy that brought the first silverware to Newcastle in 30 years. And now you had an agreement with him. Remember, when all the Newcastle journalists, paid journalists and influencers and, people who just want to be on the side of the establishment, when they were saying all of these things against Alexander Isak, they did not factor into all of the good things he had done at the club. They did not see his own point of view. They did not say to Isaac, what is your point of view? Let's wait, to get his own point of view. So this guy is saying that there's a gentleman's agreement. We knew, the words that were coming out was that Alexander Isak told them last season that this season he would not be signing for Newcastle. He wants to explore his options because he wants to, like every player. Like I said to you, you only got 8 years. You need to be in a place where you can win some of the best trophies in your life, some of the best silverwares in your life. He let them know, and they agreed with him that they were going to sign two strikers. They were going to sign two strikers. I think it was in the first season he fired them to the to Champions League place. That was when he told them that he will not be staying. And it's okay, no worries. Let's play another year, and then we will look at what is going on. We will sign strikers, we will strengthen, and then you can then leave. So when people are throwing this thing about contracts, shut up. Contracts are nothing in the game. I'm not saying there's no place for contracts, but both contracts must work along with gentlemen's agreement for everybody to win. What Newcastle fans who have been demeaning purposely the character and the person of Isak do not understand is this. If Isak just went, okay, this is the last year of my contract, I need to go. If you don't let me go, I only have one more season, and the cost of buying me is going to go down dramatically. It's the same scenario that we have with Mike Gahey and Crystal Palace. Last season, Newcastle put down £70 million or is it 67, around that figure, 67, 70 million pounds to sign Mike Gay. And Crystal Palace said, no, this guy is an 80 million pound player. If you pay us 75, we're going to take it. And they wouldn't pay that, so they left. And this season, McKay only has this season that we just got into to play at Crystal Palace. And that's it. After that, he goes for free. And right now, that Liverpool wants to sign him, the chairman of Crystal Palace is saying, you need to pay us market price. He said, no, nobody's going to pay you a market price for someone who is going to be free next season. He's 24. He will be 25. He will still be good. And then we'll take him for free. We won't pay a dime. So this is 35 million pounds. Take it. If you don't take it, it's your problem. So that is where we are on that issue. So it was the same thing that was said. It was the agreement that was had with Isak. Now, when it came to the point that Isak said, okay, I need to leave. Now they're saying no. They changed their tune. Oh, he signed that contract so that the interests of Newcastle could be protected. That was why he signed the contract. If he did not sign that contract and be 2 to 3 years on that contract, there's no way that Newcastle will be demanding British record transfer for Isak. I don't care what you say. Isak is not worth more than 100 million pounds on the open market. That Liverpool went there, and it was Newcastle who gave Liverpool, when they felt that they were going to get Shesko and the other player, they told Liverpool, you can submit your bid. And Liverpool went there with 110 million in cash, rising to 120 million in add-ons. And that will be the new British record transfer fee. When Liverpool submitted that bid, they turned around in a second and emphatically denied that bid. They rejected it outright. So you can begin to see that this is a club that is not well managed. They don't have a director of football. So that's why Eddie Howe, who is not trained in answering all these questions, is just going out there to talk rubbish and misbehave. And the conduct of Eddie Howe has actually deepened this crisis. And that's why I don't see a way back for this to be resolved other than to sell Alexander Isak. Because Isak is not going to put up with a coach, a rookie coach at that matter. Yes, he's punch above his weight. He was not considered for England. If he was that good, he would be considered for England. He got the job at Newcastle because they wanted an English coach. You know, Saudi Arabia is sports washing. They want to turn their economy around. I told you that they're trying to turn their economy around, and they were using sports to do it. So they went into football, they went into boxing, they went into golf, and they call it Riyadh season. So everybody's going to come around. That's why they're spraying money left, right, and center. They are washing their image of authoritarian religious not country. That is what they're doing. And if you don't believe me, just do a Google search. So this is what has been happening, and this is where it has led. You know, so they employed Eddie Howe just to present that English face of football. It's not a bad coach, don't get me wrong, but it's not an elite coach that you put in the leagues of Klopp or put in the league of Pep, even Arteta or Maresca. Yeah. So that's what, in fact, I rate Andoni Iraola of Bournemouth. I rate him far, far, far higher because it's using very, very little minimal resources to punch above his weight. If he had squad depth like Newcastle had last season, it will be top 4 as well. So that is what Alexander Isak, pumped out. Like, let's quickly have a look at what are the reply that. Let me look at what is coming. So Abiola said, Newcastle FC should have sold Isak when Liverpool made that bid. His heart is no longer at the club. He needs to move to a bigger club, which Newcastle at this moment is not. Sell him. Having a disgruntled player will not go well for everyone. You're right. I agree with you. Absolutely, Abiola. I do agree with you because Eddie Howe has been chatting nonsense about Isak. Isak had a deal, a gentleman's agreement with the board. Now, are you going to tell a player of Isak's reputation, who you did not coach into greatness, who has delivered silverware for the club, who has scored goals that put the club in Champions League twice? And if you're slapping a tag of 120 million, 130 million, 150 million, in fact, they said they want 150 million pound for Isak, why are you paying him less than 3p? He's on the same income bracket as 3p. They wanted to sell 3p because 3p was no longer good enough for Newcastle. If you rate him that's the irony. If you rate him to be a 150 million pound player, why don't you pay him what the wages that 150 million pound player get? Did you train him to be a genius? No. Was he an established guy before he came to Newcastle? Yes. So why do you want him in the team? So when you ask him to come back into the team, it's not going to work. He's not going to give his best. So you're having a mannequin there. So I will come to the hypocrisy of Newcastle, but let's look at the response, the tawdry and the response that Newcastle United gave. So here you can see what they put out on the 19th. That was yesterday. I wanted everybody to make their comment, before I came, because at most sports we have to look at things from different angles. So this is what Newcastle had to say. They said, we're disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Alexander Isak this evening. We're clear in response that Alex remains under contract and that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes and we listen to their views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle United, the team, and our supporters in all decisions. And we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee these conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions, and we strive to retain our family feel. Alexander remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he's ready to rejoin his teammates. It ends. So, analyze that if you want. What I can glean from this is that, this is not the first time we've heard about this. This has been an ongoing thing. So if you're saying that there was no commitment that he could leave, why don't you say, why was it that all of your reporters and everybody around the club, they're acting as if this is news to them that Alexander Isak wanted to leave? And if he didn't have the gentleman's agreement, would he have behaved the way he was behaving, always been behaving? So for me, this is just to save face and to say to the fans, we're trying everything. You cannot consider someone to be a member of your family when you have hired reporters and journalists and influencers to say bad things about him, when you have told him that he can leave if you get all of this insulted. So this is a situation that this is not going to convince anybody. I don't think Newcastle United will be, they're not also convinced by this. This is rubbish. This convinces nobody that they do not know that Alexander. Okay. One of the things that the Alexander Isak camp has also said was that they promised him when he fired them to the first Champions League that his wages were going to be reviewed. So if you think that is world class and it was worth £150 million, why didn't you sit down with him? Nobody allows the contract of Messi to go beyond 50% of the time before they sign new contracts with him, before they improve they sign improved contracts all of the time. They do it all of the time. If you know this is my best asset, which player within the Newcastle team that can command £100 million today? Name them for me. So if you see him as your asset and he's going to get you money, whether you sell him or he stays with you, why don't you pay him? Why are you not paying him? Why are you paying Trippier the same wage, on the same wage as he is? Okay, let's say you don't have time for that at that point in time. He won you the FA Cup. From the time he won you the FA Cup, you never called him in. You never got into conversation with his team, with his agent, to say, we are going to improve your offer. We're going to give you an improved deal. You behave as if nothing was happening and you are busy trying to sign strikers. You are trying to sign 2-3 strikers. Is it stupid? It's not stupid. The agency is not stupid either. So now, I want to show you something. And the reason why I want to do that is at More Sports, we focus on, we love sports, we understand sports, but we believe that African players, Black players all over the world in whatever sports are underreported and overlooked. And this is a niche that we are serving. So we will look at it from this point of view as well. Now, when a team is putting out negative image of their players, the so-called player that they believe should command a price of £150 million, when they're saying nonsense about them, have you gone on social media? Have you seen people burning their shirts of Isak on the streets as if he killed someone? Now, let me show you a clip. I'll show you a clip before we now start to, okay, I know where it is now. So let me show you this clip just for you to see the social impact of all of these things in the society when you start to demonize your own players. So this is Alexander Isak. I will turn on the volume so that you can hear it, but let me say this. This is Isak arriving at the training ground today at 3 p.m. And that is an underage guy and underage fans of Newcastle FC. And look at what they're saying to Isak. They're calling him a rat. Okay, listen yourself.
What the fuck do you think you're doing? You rot! You said you rot! 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 You rot!
Okay, I hope have you heard the language that they're using that kids who are just 9, 10, 12 year olds, have you seen the kind of language that they're using on Isak? They're calling him a bastard. They're calling him a rat. They're using profanities to describe a player that has won everything for them. No, that has brought silverware, the first silverware in 30 years. This is a player that has brought them 2 Champions League positions back to back. Guys, we're all human beings. We all have feelings. How on earth do you think this guy is going to look at that, knowing fully well that those guys are just doing exactly or replaying exactly the same thing that has been said in their presence by their parents, by adults? Adults must have fed all of that negative language into the heads of these kids, and those kids have gone to wait for Isak. Imagine if they met him in a corner on his own. Imagine what they're going to do to him. So when we say these things, we live in this society and we understand what is going on. I can tell you for free, if Isak decides to walk alone into the city center, it could be harmed based off of all of this negative reporting that has been made against Isak to malign his personality. So now, and it's childish of the football club. It's childish of all the fans. And this is why sometimes a lot of people want established, clubs to always win. They don't like this underdog, thing. It's just because of this. If you live in the same vicinities as these guys, you will understand the enormous pressures that black players are under. When they're not performing, somebody is uttering racist words at them. Look at when Bournemouth came to Anfield. Look at what happened. A guy on a wheelchair was throwing racist insults at a black player. You don't think the same mentality goes to when they sign contracts and when they sign agreements? So, like I said, this is going to be a long one. Keep the comments coming. I'll show you quickly. This is an hypocritical club, an hypocritical fan base as well. Fan base without education. I'll show you when they wanted to sign players of themselves. This is Gordon. He used to play for Everton Football Club. He refused to train. He did the same. I'll show you in a bit. They're saying Isak refused to train. Isak behaved in a bad way. I'm going to tell you is all lies. It's all based on lies. We do our research. And I'll use their own media to tell you that it was all based on lies. So this is Gordon, a white player. He refused to train. He did not go into Everton Football Club ever again, since he said he wanted to leave, and he forced his way to Newcastle. And Newcastle fans are like, oh, that's sweet. He loves us. He wanted to play for us. But when Isak did something like that, now they're calling everybody. They're calling up the reporters, start saying something negative about this guy. And they tell you, look at what kids are doing. You're only stopped short of calling me racist names because they are in public. Only God knows what they might have been saying in private. So that is one, thing to show you. Now, people, let's now even go to the beginning of the problem. Okay, now I'll show you one more hypocritical thing that's going on with Newcastle United. So Newcastle has been looking to replace uh, Isak, and they've been looking for players. And one of the players that they're looking to sign is the Brentford player, Johan Wissa. Johan Wissa, of course, is British born, but his heritage is a Congolese. He has a Congolese heritage. His parents. Now, this is a report. The 29-year-old striker is frustrated by the club's £50 million valuation and believes Brentford broke a verbal pact. Do you hear that? A verbal pact made last summer that would allow him to leave for £26 million. Newcastle have already had a 25 million bid rejected and indicated they were willing to increase it to 30 million plus £5 million add-on. Today, that bid went in. It was at £40 million. It was rejected. So two things here. It showed you that these clubs, when you want to support the clubs against the players, use your head. There was a gentleman's agreement between Wisa and Brentford that stay one more year with us. You know, his striking partner left to Saudi. That is, what's his name? I can't remember it often now. His striking partner left and went to Saudi. And he formed another striking partnership with Mbeumo. Now, Mbeumo left for Man United. And Weezer said, you're not even bringing in like-for-like replacement. I have to leave as well. I'm 29 years old. You're not even paying me good salary. I need my payday. He's 29 years old. If he's going to sign any contract now, it cannot be more than 3 years. At 3 years, he will be 32. At 32, you better start looking at going off to play in the US League or France League or go to Saudi. That's it. Those are your options. At 32, for the profile of striker that he is, it's not going to get many top offers. So, Newcastle fans are happy that Johan Wissa has refused to train. In fact, everything that linked him to Brentford is taken off all of his social media handles. He's taking them off. Now, when it's Isak that's supposed to also want to leave, now they're painting him as a black sheep of the team. Is that not hypocritical? Players will come and go. So let's go and look at how we came to this point. And it was not down to Isak. It was not down to Isak at all. So let's go to Sky. This is Sky News, right? So Sky News have done a timeline of the Isak, saga. So let's look at it. July 15th, Liverpool told Isak not for sale in this window after making informal approach to Newcastle. Did you read that very well? When Liverpool said, we want to sign Isak, is our top priority. Once we sign him, we're going to do other things. Newcastle said, no, we don't want to sell him. He's not for sale. Then Liverpool went and signed Hugo Ekitike, who Newcastle was interested in. And they got that deal done within a week. Deal was done within a week. Done. Now, July 19th, Eddie Howe reveals after preseason friendly with a defeat at Celtic that Isak traveled with the rest of the squad to Glasgow, but he chose to send him home due to the speculation around him. Guys, are you reading what I'm reading? Are you? So this is Eddie Howe saying that he himself is not that Newcastle, it's not that Alexander Isak went on strike. He did not go on strike. He traveled with the team for preseason. And what did Eddie Howe do? Eddie Howe was so disrespectful. He does not know how to manage that situation because Newcastle does not have a director of sports or director of football. So it is overwhelmed by the situation. He was the one who sent Alexander Isak away from the camp, from the team, from preseason. So July 23, Liverpool beat Newcastle to the signing of Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt after the Northeast club had already missed out on Liam Delap and Joao Pedro. I'll give you a list of all the guys they tried to sign, just to let you know that if they had been successful at signing those players, they would have taken the money for Isak. Now, on July 24th, Isak is not included in Newcastle's squad for preseason tour of Asia due to what Newcastle described as a minor thigh injury, lying. Once again, second time, it was not Isak who decided that I do not want to be part of this team. It was Newcastle. And they lied to everyone to say he's got a minor thigh injury. But what did we see? We got news that it emerged that Isak had informed Newcastle he wanted to explore his options in the transfer window. And the guy they told us had minor injury. July 31st, Sky Sports News reports that Isak is training individually at former club Real Sociedad's facilities. If you have minor thigh injury, you will have the club physios with you. The club's physios will be with you. Club's physios were not with him. Alexander Isak hired his own, medical, staff, his own sports staff to keep, fit, to keep fit. So on August 1, Newcastle reject an official bid from Liverpool for Isak worth 110 million plus add-ons. And what they did not include is that they invited Liverpool to make the bid because they had the next Benjamin Sesko bid on, and they actually outbeat Manchester United, thinking that, oh, we have Sesko in the pocket, so we can now sell Isak. So don't forget, this is British record fee. 110 million plus another 10 million in add-ons. That is British record. So if Liverpool was lowballing or they are not serious, would they have put that offering? Okay. August 2nd, Newcastle make formal bid to RB Leipzig for Sesko worth nearly £70 million, and Isak later flies back to the Northeast after his personal training camp in Spain. So when he came back from Spain, what did he do? Did he say, I'm going to go on strike? No. The striker returns to Newcastle's training ground for the first time, and has trained separately away from the teammates. Now, what they did not say here was that when he returned, Newcastle had end of the year, beginning of the season bonding with the families of players, at St. James Park. And Eddie Howe actually asked Isak not to attend. The club asked him not to attend. The club ostracized their best player from bonding with the team. At least bring your girlfriend. Let's talk things over. Let's see if we can use the peer pressure and the power of the crowd, to change his mind. They didn't do that. They went on the offensive. They were negative. They had this mindset: he's our enemy now. We need to get him out. So they actually made up Isak's mind for him. They made up Isak's mind for him. So that's what we have here. So let's quickly run through this because I've got a lot more to show you. August for Newcastle Lion. Newcastle up their offer to RB Leipzig for Shesko amid interest from Man United. 8. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe says we would love the player to be with us, but Isak after he misses friendly win over Espanyol at St. James Park. Now, if somebody that you asked to train alone, you sent home from preseason, somebody that when you had your picnic, your barbecue for the families, you did not call him to join you. You treated him as an outsider. You treated him like a leper. Now you're saying you want him back. How is he going to come back? How does that work? In what world does Eddie Howe leaves? In what? That's what I'm saying about these coaches. Everybody says Eddie Howe this. See, the overhype things in the UK. We've lived there for so long. We know how this works. Eddie Howe does not have experience in handling world-class players. Trust me. He's only been at Bournemouth. That's it. If you are a low league player, low mentality, that's what you are. It takes a lot to become a club. It takes a lot to become a Ferguson. It takes a lot to beat these coaches. In fact, if you go to club and say, I don't want to play for you again, he's going to open his door and say, I give you my blessings. And he's going to bring in someone else. That's happened so many times. And look at all this small club mentality. You just turn overnight, you turn your best player into your best enemy. That's what has happened here. So August 16, Isak not included in Newcastle squad for Premier League season opener against Aston Villa. But I was chatting shit about the door is well and truly open for a return. Nobody cares, mate. 19, Isak skips a PFA awards and releases that statement. Newcastle, releases their own. So now that is what has gone on, guys. So if you follow me up to now, you're beginning to see the hypocrisy in the system. From the club, the players, they're all one unit, the media. A lot of these media guys are on the take. It is what it is. They are clubs, mouthpiece. They are the club's mouthpieces. That's what they do. They're not going to tell the truth like we are telling you. I've not fabricated my own truth. I have used the available information online to give you what I have. So now let's see what has happened in the past. I'll show you something that's going to shock you. So if a player says they want to go, they do go. That's it. That's what it is. It's your job to maintain. Look at this. I've seen quite a lot of posts from Arsenal football, supporters, saying Isak should have trained, Isak should have done this, blah, blah, blah. Isak wanted to train. They actually turned it back. But here was Gallas that issued a own goal threat. He told Chelsea, if you don't sell me to Arsenal, I'm going to score own goals. I mean, this is funny. It's sad, but it's funny. This is in 2006. So I'm telling you, when players want to leave, if you don't treat them well, if they believe that is their last big signing that can secure their family and secure their future, forget. See, what is the worst that can happen with your contract? Alexander Isak goes back. He stays on the bench. They put him in number 9, certain position. He goes in there, does the least beat, and he doesn't score. So what's going to happen? You are going to be saddled with a guy who cannot play. But if you take him to the court, he will say, yeah, I was on the field. They put him in there. I tried. He will dribble. He will show you everything. When it's time to score, he's going to blaze it over. That's what it's going to do. So what do you do? What do you do to that kind of player? And like I said, it's your level of talent, guys. If your level of talent is so high, another club is saying you are the solution to my problem. They're going to get you. So that is Galas. So don't let it. Now let's see what they were doing behind Isak. You know, so to let you know that this is just Newcastle is just a small club with a small club mentality, and they would rather turn their best player in the last 30 years into an enemy, a sworn enemy at that. So this is what has happened. So Joao Pedro, do you know that Newcastle have been on Joao Pedro's case since 2022? They tried to sign him in 2022, they backed off. Then they returned in 2025, they wouldn't put up. Now they're saying to Liverpool, pay the 150 million or buzz off. Okay, we'll take your advice. Now, why didn't you take the 50 million that Chelsea paid for Joao Pedro? You couldn't pay 30 million in 2022. You couldn't pay 50 million in 2025. And you claim that you are Saudis who have the biggest pockets in the league. How about that? Okay, Liam Delap. They tried to sign Liam Delap. Come on now. Liam Delap, yeah, we know that he's a son of Rory Delap of Stoke, and he was trained in the Man City Academy. And yeah, he did some he had some bright games for Ipswich. He was their top scorer. But was it worth 30 million pounds? No. I'll tell you for that. You can see it. He's played how many games for Chelsea? He scored maybe 1 or 2 goals. Newcastle could not convince a spring chicken, a starter like Liam Delap, average talent, to come to Newcastle. They couldn't. They couldn't pay 30 million as well. Okay. Matheus Cunha chose to join Manchester United over Newcastle. They tried to sign him. It was a top target of theirs. They couldn't sign him. Brian Mbeumo. They wanted to sign Brian Mbeumo. Sorry about that. They tried to sign Brian Mbeumo. Brian look at St. James Park, look at Old Trafford, and said, guys, this club, they've got history, they've got heritage, they have provenance. I'm choosing to go to Man United over Newcastle. That is a guy that was scoring 20 goals, over 20 goals every season. And he went for 65 million pounds. Newcastle wouldn't pay that. Now they tried to sign. Okay, Liverpool was saying either Ekitike or Isak. They tried to sign Ekitike in 2022. They failed. They failed because, and this was Ekitike in 2022 at Paris Saint-Germain, was not getting game time, was not shining. It was only showing glimpses. It could have gone anywhere. Newcastle could not attract an unproven Hugo Ekitike. You know, 2025, they were going for Hugo Ekitike again. They established connections. They wanted to sign him. But when they wouldn't budge with the Liverpool offer, Liverpool went for Ekitike and it was done in a week. Benjamin Sesko. Newcastle tried to sign Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig in 2023. They tried again in 2025. These are 6 high-profile strikers that Newcastle could not attract. These guys are not stupid. The market is not stupid. Players are not stupid. They look at how you treat your best player that came through. If you had sold Isak when he said he wanted to leave, you honored your agreement, you would have had Ekitike by now. And you would say to yourself, at this moment, we're not where we should be. We will sell our players. We're a selling club. Trust me, that was what Liverpool was before club. Coutinho went where? Coutinho went to Barcelona. I'll show you other players that went, The current coach of Real Madrid, Xabi Alonso, went. He left. We didn't want him to leave. I can reel up, the best players from Anfield always get taken by one big team or the other. With the exception of Gerrard. It was Gerrard who he was going to go, but because his home is in Anfield, it is in Merseyside, he knew that he was going to get the stick for the rest of his life. So that was why they convinced him and they gave him a whole load of money to make that decision not to go. So this is the profile of Newcastle. They cannot attract talent. So when I've seen, a lot of us saying something about gentleman's agreement. So let's quickly, I need to start rounding up now. So gentleman's agreements, right, they are part of the game. Let's see the times that we've had gentleman's agreement. So now we'll quickly go over this. We know what's unbinding. We know that you have to sign what's unbinding and you have to sign a contract, but there is a room for gentleman's agreement. There's a verbal pact that people have, and you have to be honorable. Now these are gentlemen's agreement that shook football. Yeah, Harry Kane, number one. David Levy was like, I'm not going to honor you. You promised to let me go. And he went. He went eventually. He went. So the next one was Riyad Mahrez. It was the same thing that Brentford was doing to Wisa now. That was doing to Riyad Mahrez, in Leicester City. He went. So it's the same for Alexis Sanchez and Arsenal. So I'm showing you this because I want you to know that when you read, stuff in the press, you must be critical. But to check left, he had an agreement with Chelsea to leave for Arsenal. So Luis Suarez, he left. He left. When he left, he's leaving through back Liverpool 3-4 years. But he left. Liverpool, you can't keep a player that does not want to stay with you. You can't. We know about the saga of Saido Berahino and West Bromwich Albion. He also left. Jadon Sancho and Borussia Dortmund, they have it. Roy Keane and Blackburn Rovers. So that's why Roy Keane was telling you, if you want loyalty in the game, go and buy yourself a dog. Look at Modric and Tottenham. The same thing happened. He left. So this is what we're saying. Now, there have been so many players who have forced their way, but they've not received the level of disrespect that has been shown to Alexander Isak. It's crazy. Now, this is a list of players who went on strike to force transfer. So, Courtois, he went on strike to to make his way to Real Madrid. So these things happen. If some teams are bigger than you and they are in position to win titles, silverware, players will always be drawn to them. It's the law of the land. It's how the land lays. You can't stop it. I'll show you what happened with Gallas. He threatened them he was going to score own goals. You know, Marcos Rojo. He forced his way from Sporting in Portugal. Laurent Koscielny, you remember him? He also forced his way back to France from Arsenal. Riyad Mahrez, I told you about that one. We saw about Moses Caicedo. It was the same thing he did for Brighton. He would not play for them. You know. So Matheus Nunes as well. He went on strike at Wolver. Dimitri Payet. He basically told them at West Ham, I'm leaving, whether you guys like it or not. He just went home to France. I remember the saga very well. He just went home to France. That's it. I'm not playing for you anymore. Is it that you want to lose money or I'm not showing up in your country anymore? The same thing happened to Dimitar Berbatov. Anywhere you have Levi still in Tottenham to prize away a player from their stadium is always a trouble. So this is what we're saying. Even Harry Kane did that. So you can see like 4 Tottenham players in the list. Luis Suarez, we've seen that. So this is how the world of football is, guys. So don't let them gaslight the people, gaslight, our players because they want to go and win silverware somewhere else. It's hypocritical of Newcastle United Football Club, of Newcastle fans, to turn around and stick a knife in the back of the player that has brought them 2 Champions League back-to-back positions in 2 seasons and have won them their 4th silverware in 30 years. That is not how to treat your best. We are watching. Other players are watching. They're not going to sign for you. If they have better options, they're not going to sign. Even if you do get to sign these players, you're going to pay over the odds to secure their services because of what you've done. So between Isak, whatever you want to call him, and Newcastle, who is the loser here? It's Newcastle by a long mile. So my prediction is there's no way back. There's no way back. Isak is going to leave. He may not go to Liverpool, but I do think he has played his last match for Newcastle. Now, they can't even get visa. That's how bad it is. Visa, 29-year-old. Visa. You couldn't even get visa. That is what it is. So, guys, thank you. If you've stayed with me up until this point, thank you so much. I know this is a long one, but as you can see, we need to go behind the scenes. We need to dig deep. We need to understand all the sides, to the game. We need to know that, this is what happens. If, yes, contract is critical, but if you give your word to a player to say, okay, sign this contract so that we can protect our market value of you, so that we can receive money for you, and then you can go. That is how things flow, guys. That is how we're human beings. The law was made for us. We are not made for the law. Anywhere that you understand yourselves and you can deal with yourself, the law becomes useless. That's how it is. Newcastle have shown us if I had a brother, a son, a friend that's playing football and at the top of their game and they want to sign for Newcastle, I'll say, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Or if their contract is coming to an end and they're forcing you to sign another one so that you can protect their market value, no, don't do it. Run your contract down and leave. That's what's going to happen. So thank you, guys. Join me tomorrow as well. I promise tomorrow is not going to be this lengthy. Trust me, I've gone over an hour. Tomorrow we're just going to spend 40-45 minutes together to talk about some of the issues that we've been discussing so far. Let's talk about. Let me show you this. Let's talk about. I don't know if you can see. Okay, immigrant networks. Okay, that's it. That's the one. Okay. For the first time, we have a Sikh coach, the first Sikh coach in history of English football. How did that happen? And why is it that us, African and Black community, we're not able to do this? We're only chasing opportunities that others have created. We do not create opportunities for ourselves and put our own there. So we're going to go through that tomorrow. So um, we're going to try to do it for around 7 o'clock. But if it's going to be earlier than that, then I'll do a short video to alert you, to the time that we're going to start. So you want to be part of that because what we do is sports, but it's more than sports as well. We dig deep, we connect all the dots, social dots, because sports does not exist in isolation. It exists within society. And the more we start to understand these things, the better for all of us. So thank you so much. God bless you. I hope you have a good rest for the night, and tomorrow you are up to do what you need to do. God bless.